Well, speaking of hat tricks, Sammy Walker looking okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's crazy. Like, I was very curious to see how his AHL season would go once they got him from Tampa. And obviously we saw immediately stepped in, lit it up in the AHL, like showcasing even more like offensive skill set that he did at Minnesota. Part of that has to do with the fact that Minnesota's got every year they've got kids that are going top 10 in the draft, like elite high end offensive players. And like Sammy Walker was the kind of like the ultimate complimentary hockey player there. I feel like pretty much just do whatever you need him to do. He can chip in some offense, but he wasn't like a go-to guy, obviously, for them. And immediately, like, again, just showcasing skills that I have not seen him like showcase while he was in college. And he was doing it every game. And then the few games he played in the NHL fit right in and like didn't change his game whatsoever. And again, he steps into these showcase games and lights it up. Another hat trick for him as well. And I'm really curious to see like where this goes for him. Because again, like now that finally we'll touch on this, Addison finally signed. But who knows how many call-ups they can even afford this year. But like Sammy Walker, with where he's at with his age and everything, this is about the time that you want to be like stepping in the NHL. And he's shown that he can be an NHL player. Obviously, he's been there pretty much at this point, their go-to call-up last year, like when they were, looking for anybody to come in and chip in. But like he's good enough to play. Like he can play in the NHL for sure. It's just like Minnesota has the craziest weird like logjam in terms of like money and like their roster makeup and everything like that. So it's crazy because Minnesota ended up being the perfect spot for him last year to step in and produce in the AHL and like be surrounded by players that would help him as well. But in terms of like an NHL future with where he's at with his age, it's just like it feels like that's a bit conflicting almost. But I mean, it's not like he's like 30 years old, but he's just older than most kids that you call prospects, of course. But
sure,
he was phenomenal. Like every shift, like doing it at both ends of the ice too, obviously producing points, but like you notice him defensively, he's physical, he plays hard. Like he's just a really smart hockey player. So yet another guy that like we've seen over the past few years, like with Iowa though, like they've got a whole lot of guys I feel like that have come up and like chipped in and been solid players, like in a middle six role or a bottom six role. Like they can play. It's just there's just always been this fucking like logjam of players, and now you've got like the cap situation. So interesting. Well, it'll be interesting to see how many games he gets this year because I'm sure they'll finagle away with this cap because they always do. Every team always does, but they're just in that precarious spot where they've got 40 grand in space. They can't really afford a call at this point, which is fucking crazy to me. It's really funny. It's a very funny thing to me. It's just like we can't call anyone up. It's unfortunate, but it sucks. But he looked fucking great. A couple of guys. He was one of a few guys from Minnesota specifically that stood out.
Well, dude, he's gonna look even bigger now that he took number 18 for his jersey.
That's right. That's right, baby. That's right.